the more you wake up, the less you can listen to lessons like this and listen to non-duality and awakening teachers. So let's talk about it. We received an email from one in our community that is really, really diligent with her practice. She's practicing between 1 and 4 hours every single day. She's doing the inquiry, she's doing the curriculum, and she's doing all the exercises that we have in the curriculum that is pointing to becoming aware and see what is actually arising in this moment. And she has more and more realized what reality actually is, and in that also what it's not. And she wrote us because she was a bit confused about how non-duality and awakening teachers speak. That she feels that it's difficult to discern who is awake and who is just selling snake oil. And I completely understand that. We do not want you to follow us as if we're teachers or gurus or anything like that. We want you to wake up to reality as it is. And you often hear a lot of people talking about that you're waking up to the truth. It's not what we see it as. I love Todd, the way that he usually expresses it is that you do not wake up to reality. You wake up to the unreality of everything, because that is what happens. And when you really become aware that one thing is what you think reality is and how you perceive reality around you, that's one thing. Another thing is what it actually is. The more you practice your inquiries, the more curious you are in the moment, and the more you can see that what you perceive as reality cannot be as you think it is. And I don't just mean as you think and you create everything in your thought. It's not that what I'm talking about. But whatever you perceive as reality is filtered through your senses. So you see something, you look at something, you can look at anything around you right now. And I want you just to look at that. The first thing you realize is that there's like an instant recognition of what it is that you're looking at. And the problem with that is that from then on, it's just thoughts. We're straight up in the 5% of your entire being that is the conscious mind. You will start to think of when you have experienced that previously, if you like it or if you don't like it, all your opinions about it and all of that. And that is where the majority of people live their lives. It's in that constant thinking about things, projecting things into the future, regretting things from the past, and actually not being here in the moment. So the first level is where you really become aware that that is happening, that you constantly project a reality upon what you perceive as reality. And it's in that projection that you live your life. You can only get angry at people if you are in that projection. When you see things as they arise and not as you project them into arising, then you can never get angry at people. You can't get annoyed at people. You cannot have any ill will towards anyone. Because what is creating the ill will is an arising in you based on your past experiences and your memories and your opinions and your assumptions and all of that. That has nothing to do with the other person. But that is what we talk about in the fourth and the fifth fetter. If you recognize yourself there, go to fourth and fifth fetter and work more with it there. So when you really become aware that there is like two layers constantly, what you think is arising and then there is an arising. The next thing you will work with and become aware of is that even that arising, it's not as you perceive it to be. Because your perception is happening through your senses. through your seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. There's that external version of it. But you also have exactly the same with the internal version of it, with the internal seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. And both of those are not conveying what it is you are actually sitting in front. It's still only your sensory experience of it that is being conveyed. And your brain then picks up on that. The brain is sitting in a box. It has never ever had any experience on the outside of anything. It's using the senses to get an idea of what is happening. But still, it's not what is really happening. It is only what your senses are able to pick up. You don't see infrared, for example, even though it is happening. You don't hear electromagnetic wavelengths. You can only perceive within the limits of your senses. And your brain can only perceive what it already knows, what it already has experience with. And even if you then experience something that you have never experienced before, the brain will create an idea of what it is. You will think it's something similar to something you have experienced previously, which it might not be at all. And that is because what is arising in this moment is not at all what you perceive it to be. You're limited by what you already know, by what your brain can think is happening. But that is not what is actually arising. So what is actually arising? Well, we don't know. We don't know. And that is the last step when we talk about awakening. It is that really realizing that you live in ambiguity. You do not know. If you ask me what is awakening, I would say that it's when you become aware of how much you identify with things around you and project an existence onto things that is not there and make it about yourself, about me. But even that is not true. It can't be. It's only how I perceive awakening. You need to find out on your own how you perceive awakening. There is not one shoe fits all when we talk about awakening, because we are created from so many different parts that you cannot say that all of us experience it in the same way. And it is true that some people experience awakening like a magical and mystical and psychedelic experience. And who am I to say that it's not awakening? The issue with it is that when you start to identify with that as awakening, you're back in the selfing part. If I start to tell you what it is and what it's not, I am selfing, because I am taking my experience as a truth and creating that into something which is just something out of nothing. I cannot tell you how your experience is going to be. I can tell you that whatever experience you have, question that. Be curious about that experience. And ask yourself, are you sure that this is how it is? How can you be sure that this is how it is? Because you can't. Whatever is arising in this moment, it's new and it's fresh and you have never experienced it before. No matter how many times your brain is telling you, but this is a cat. So my recommendation will always be curious to what your experience is. Be curious to what is arising in this moment. Discern how much is thoughts about it and how much is that pure, unfiltered experience. And that experience you have with your body. That is why we emphasize embodiment so much when we talk about awakening. Because you need to feel it through your body. You need to feel in your body how this is experienced. It's also the only way that you can avoid bypassing. So notice what is arising in your body, and without placing any labels on that arising. Just notice how it feels to be in a body with this arising. If you have any negative experiences about it, you're in your mind. In that pure arising, there's just contentment. As I have said so many times, that there can only be contentment. It's the only feeling you can have. It is contentment. It's that equanimity that is arising all the time, that is there in you all the time. And if you don't experience that, it's completely okay. It's completely fine. It's just another area that you can turn the headlight towards and notice what is happening. Why do I have a negative experience in this right now? What is it right now that I don't feel equanimous about? And where is the equanimity in that? So whatever is arising, there can only be contentment. There can only be a pure experience. And none of it can be held up as a truth, because nothing is. With the awakening curriculum and with unfettered mindfulness, what we're pointing to is, as Todd say, that you wake up to the unreality of everything. And if you have any questions about this, if you have any experiences about this, kindly write it in the comment section. I think that was it. Thank you. We have created a course of our first Fetter material. This course will walk you step by step through all of the ways in which identification is created and selfing happens. If you've been struggling to see through the self-structure or have that first awakening shift, this course contains hundreds of tools to help you discover the selfing mechanisms when they're happening, and then see through the illusion of identification that are created. Along with over 14 hours of videos, this $49 course contains a full book worth of summaries, extrapolations on the videos, written inquiry suggestions, and other text. So work slowly, leave time for integration. This is powerful material and it can be life-changing.